Have you guys seen a corkscrew? Maybe Ted knows. Ted? Ted, where the hell is the corkscrew? Ted! Friday the 13th, the final chapter, stars Crispin Glover and is directed by Joseph Zito. Guys, before I get into this review, I want you to know there will be spoilers. So if you haven't seen the final chapter, you might not want to watch this review. Guys, this is the Friday movie that I've been waiting to review. This is my favorite. I love the final chapter because it's not just a quick little slasher movie filled with kills and you're out of the theater. No, this movie feels like a feast. It's got the kills, it's got an awesome Jason, it's got an actual story, and it's the beginning of the whole Tommy Jarvis trilogy. And isn't it kind of interesting that parts 4 through 6 are the Tommy Jarvis trilogy, and parts 4 through 6 of Halloween are the Jamie Lloyd trilogy? And the same actor and actress played in parts 4 and 5, and then they got a different actor and actress to play in part 6. Kind of strange. Well, Corey Feldman played a small part in part 5, but he didn't play the whole movie. But I digress. So I remember back in the 80s when I saw that the title of the fourth Friday movie was going to be called The Final Chapter. Everybody thought this was going to be it. This was going to be the last movie. So did Paramount. And so did Joseph Zito, who directed it. And they gave Joseph Zito carte blanche. They pretty much told him, hey, this is it. So go ahead, do what you want. Kill him. I mean, really kill him. And that's pretty much what he did, but we'll get to that. And I love the way Joseph Zito directed this movie. And I mentioned that wouldn't it be awesome if Joseph Zito was brought back to direct another Friday movie? Even though I know it would never happen, I would love that. But his idea for Jason was, hey, let's pick up right where 3 left off, but let's not bring him back to life for a while. Let's actually kind of let you get settled in your theater seats, and throughout the beginning of the movie, you won't know when he comes back. And so that kind of keeps you on your toes when he does eventually come back. And I love the opening of this movie. Like I said, it starts right where 3 left off. Ambulances are there. I love slasher sequels that just pick up right where the last one left off. It's always exciting. But they load him in the ambulance, they take him to the hospital, and right away, the movie's really interesting because of the characters. You got this character named Axel, and he is kind of a male chauvinist pig. All he wants to do is get laid, and he's looking at dead bodies all day. He's even eating his lunch on a dead corpse. Throughout that whole scene, you got Axel, and he's trying to pick up the nurse, and then you got Jason's dead body laying right behind him. So immediately there's some tension to be had right away. And they start this movie off with a great kill. Jason kills the nurse and he basically guts her from her stomach all the way down. And it's a pretty brutal first killing. And it really sets the tone of this movie. This might be the most brutal that Jason has ever been in the series, at least up to that point. And so Jason finds his way back to Crystal Lake. And there is a whole new crop of teenagers, but these aren't just your ordinary teenagers. Every one of these characters has a story, and they're all actually really interesting. I'll start with Crispin Glover, of course.
You are going to get to the Crispin Glover dance scene, right?
Crispin Glover really steals every scene he is in this movie. He might be one of the most interesting characters in a slasher film ever. And if you've seen part 4, you know exactly what I'm talking about. He is just so out there, so wild. You never know what you're going to get with him. And immediately when I first saw this movie, I knew that Crispin Glover was an eccentric actor and he was going to go on to do great things. I mean, he was George McFly. Give me a milk, chocolate. But that whole relationship between Crispin Glover and his buddy Ted, Jimmy and Ted, they were just a laugh riot throughout the whole movie. Right away, they're on their way to the camp and they just have this great dialogue with each other about how Jimmy wants to get laid so bad and Ted is just constantly egging him on, and it's just so funny. And I love the scene eventually where Ted gets killed, and he was on pot in the scene, and he was actually really on pot when he did the scene as an actor. He said that he regretted doing that, but to me it kind of added to the scene because you can kind of tell that he's baked. And this movie also has twins. Twins, Basil, twins. It's like all the writers were sitting around a table and they were like, hey, let's actually give these characters some meat to them. Let's throw in these crazy 2 guys that all they want to do is get laid. Let's throw in these 2 twins to match up with these 2 guys. And then let's have a little love triangle. And then why don't we just go ahead and throw in Corey Feldman while we're at it. And the characters in Friday, the Final Chapter, are a big reason of why it is my favorite Friday movie. Even when Jason is not on the screen, you are entertained. And then you got this hitchhiker, Rob, who comes along. He has a sister that was killed by Jason previously, and he has kind of been on the hunt for Jason. And so he just adds another really cool aspect to the story. And finally, I got to talk about Corey Feldman. Corey Feldman was probably 9-10 years old when he did this movie, and a lot of times it's a risky proposition to put a child in a slasher movie. It worked for Halloween, and it definitely worked for Friday Part 4. Corey Feldman is a really good actor, and he really had some great parts in this movie. And he was funny. Like, there's a scene where he is looking out his window and he sees the kids across the street and they're having sex. And I think every kid can relate to that scene, and every kid would probably react exactly like Corey Feldman reacted in that scene.
Oh, hi there. Sorry, it's just a regular old Friday for me. Lee, did you tell them about Corey Feldman and how he actually really wanted to do this movie, and he was balancing Friday the 13th Part 4 and The Goonies? He genuinely wanted to be in Friday the 13th Part 4 and balanced between The Goonies. If he had only known.
Another thing I really love about this movie is Jason. Ted White is probably my favorite Jason out of the whole Friday franchise. He's just a really creepy guy. He's really big. He's actually similar to Richard Brooker as far as stature goes. And like Part 3, they kept him in the shadows pretty much most of the movie. But there was just something about the way he played Jason, especially in the kill scenes, because he seemed brutal. Like, for instance, the one scene where the good-looking guy is taking a shower and Jason pretty much mangles his face. This was a Jason that was actually scary. He wasn't a joke whatsoever. There was nothing tongue-in-cheek about the way Ted White played Jason. Also, I really like the kills in this movie. One that I'll talk about is the character Sam, and she's in a fight with her boyfriend Paul, and she goes to the lake like an idiot, and she gets in the raft. There's actually two really cool kills in that one scene. First up, Paul, he goes to find her, and then Jason shoots a spear up his groin and picks him up in the air. And then in the raft, it wasn't so much the way he killed her, because we've seen better kills than that. But what I've always been interested in is the behind the scenes of that scene, because it was really cold. I think they said it was like in maybe the 10s or 20s when they were filming that scene, and she was naked and her body wasn't on the raft. It was actually below the raft. So she was in the water. She almost caught hypothermia. Ted White actually stepped in and told Joseph Zito, hey, we need to stop this right now. She's gonna get hurt. So there was kind of some controversy on set during that scene. But if you watch that scene, you can tell she is freezing her ass off. Finally, I gotta talk about the third act. The third act in the final chapter is just everything in the kitchen sink. And it's probably one of the best third acts out of the whole franchise, because it's pretty much all up to Corey Feldman, Tommy Jarvis, to take down Jason, and he figures out how to do it. He shaves his head, he comes downstairs, and he acts like he's Jason as a kid. And you know, Jason, he's jacked in the head anyway, so he plays along. And then the kill scene in that scene, the way they kill Jason is just brutal, because we've all seen decapitations a million times, but this might be the only movie I can think of where they actually slice half of a guy's head open, and then the guy falls down and his head slides down the machete. It was a very well done practical effects scene, and it's definitely a scene that you will not be able to get out of your head. So in the end, Friday the 13th, the final chapter, is a movie about excess. It is excess kills, excess nudity, excess final act. Everything about it, it just feels big. And because of that, I'm giving this movie Trapped on an Island. This is a great Friday the 13th movie, and still to this day, it has not been beaten. And I would say most people either say this one or Part 2 is their favorite, and I can see why. So anyway, guys, in the end, what did you think of Friday the 13th, the final chapter? I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts, and I'm also looking forward to continuing the franchise. We do have some bumps in the road ahead of us. Keep that in mind. Also, guys, you might notice my background is a little bit different. My wife actually completely redesigned my whole studio, and what you're seeing on the screen right now is what she did, and it looks really good, and I just want to say she's awesome. So guys, thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and Humdrum out.